Welcome to the France 24 Observers. This show is based on our network of observers. They're ordinary people who tell us what's going on where they are and send in photos and videos to document it. We check everything here in Paris and bring the best to you. Our first observer today has taken time off from her studies. She was studying English in the Syrian city of Homs. But Homs is a battleground with rebels of the Free Syrian Army fighting forces loyal to President Bashar al-Assad. Opposition groups say nearly 8,000 people have died in the city and the surrounding province. There are no estimates of the wounded. In Homs, the only public hospital still open is controlled by the army, leaving few options for residents hurt in the shelling. Our observer, who we call Sharouk, has no medical training, but she has volunteered to do what she can at one of the underground clinics set up to treat the injuries.
We see horrible injuries at our clinic on all kinds of people, women, children, older people. Sometimes the bodies have been torn to shreds. The supplies we have for first aid are very basic. Disinfectant, bandages, that kind of thing. To sterilise our instruments, we just wipe them down with disinfectant. One of the regular nurses suggested we use an oven for sterilising, so we do that from time to time. As for medication, all we have are pain relievers and anti-inflammatory drugs. Also a few bags of blood and serum and equipment for transfusions. I'm studying English. I've never studied medicine. I started volunteering at one of the clinics because they're seriously understaffed. Most of the regular doctors and nurses in Homs are afraid to work at one of the clinics. There are regular raids on the clinics and people are executed on the spot. It happens all the time.
Next up, water shortages, and specifically a lack of fresh, drinkable water. It's a problem across the Middle East, but especially in Jordan. The UN Development Programme estimates that Jordanians get only 15% of the fresh water they need for drinking, cooking and washing. In some cities, there's water only 1 day in 3. One frustrated father in the northeastern city of Zarqa took his kids to the only place he was sure of finding water. Omar al-Shishan, our observer in the city, explains.
The beginning of the video shows the yard of the water distribution company. The person filming walks around among the trucks. Then you see the father. He's washing his kids at a tap he's found. He says he's doing it because the family hasn't had running water for months. Water shortages are a huge problem in all parts of Jordan. It's the same thing every year. The government has been running water distribution programs for 20 years. Most people get water 2 or 3 times a week. It depends on where you live. People are used to it. When they build a house or they rent one, they always ask about the water tanks, how much they can hold. The basic problem is that Jordan doesn't have enough water sources. We don't have big rivers. There's the River Jordan, of course, but most of the waters never get as far as the Dead Sea because they're used up by Israel. With all the conflicts in the Middle East, Jordan is full of refugees. They just make it harder for everyone to have enough water. Jordan is ranked 4th worst in the world in terms of water supply.
Now for a look at some other videos and stories sent in by our observers this week. First up, Mecca, Saudi Arabia, with Abubakar Siddiq, a blogger from Nigeria. Abubakar tells us that more than 1,000 of his compatriots were turned back by Saudi authorities when they arrived for the annual Hajj pilgrimage. Why? Because they're women, and they weren't accompanied by male sponsors, as required by Saudi law. Abubakar says that is based on an outdated interpretation of Islam. While the road to Mecca might have been dangerous for unaccompanied women in the days of the Prophet Muhammad, that is no longer the case, Abubakar says. Nigerian authorities are now checking the women are accompanied before they board the plane. Now to Egypt, where doctors at public hospitals have gone on strike. They complain that their facilities are run down and underfunded, and that the new government, led by the Muslim Brotherhood, isn't doing anything about it. Our observer, Mohammed Shafiq, has a theory about why. The Muslim Brothers already have their own network of hospitals and clinics across the country, and don't have any interest, he says, in making the public hospitals perform better. Finally today, what to do if you're stuck in a traffic jam. Authorities in China made a goodwill gesture on one of the busiest holiday weekends of the year, telling drivers they wouldn't have to pay tolls. 85 million Chinese took them up on the offer, leading to huge jams on the country's motorways. Fortunately, the stranded drivers did not seem to lose their holiday spirit. That's all for this week. As always, you can find more stories from our observers on our website, on our Facebook and Twitter pages, and on our iPhone app. See you next time, here or online.